He has taken the leap, ladies and gentlemen. That is right. Jayson Tatum speaks out on Jimmy Kimmel on his expectations for this Celtics team as they look to bounce back this season. We also have a little bit of a report from Steve Kerr as he talks about his situation with Jayson Tatum at the Olympics. And we got a little bit of an injury update as well, leading this Celtics team on their second back-to-back in just a couple days. And how will this affect Joe Mazzulla's team as we saw the Boston Celtics falter in their last back-to-back? We'll be diving into all of this and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Velez, and you guys have been absolutely fantastic showing your love and support on the channel over the last couple weeks. I do want to remind you guys that it is Wednesday, so we will be live with our weekly live stream on Wednesdays. If you guys are new or do not pay attention, we are live every Wednesday from 6 p.m. start time to talk about the Celtics over the past week, looking forward to this week, and going over all your questions surrounding the team. We'll be breaking that down live, like I mentioned. So if you want to come join, come visit, and come chat with us over there. But if you're not, no worries. Without further ado, let's dive in and let's get into the video at hand today. And like I mentioned, first, we're going to dive in a little bit of an injury update as the Celtics gear up for their second back-to-back in just recent days. We saw the Celtics have a back-to-back this last weekend on Friday and Saturday when they were at home, where they played the Orlando Magic and the Atlanta Hawks. And we saw the Boston Celtics take care of the Orlando Magic in pretty solid fashion, but collapse and fall apart versus an Atlanta Hawks team, losing in overtime. Now that the Celtics gear up for this Western Conference road trip, they bounce back with their latest win versus the Warriors, but now gear up to take on the Clippers and Lakers. And we have a little bit of an injury report diving in and going in on that for you guys as we see that Jrue Holiday and Al Horford are both questionable heading into tonight's contest. Holiday is questionable with some right shoulder impingement, and Horford is questionable with obviously the big toe sprain. Now, from what I see from this is that the Celtics most likely will not play Al Horford tonight versus the Clippers as they will want to utilize him versus the Lakers and will run with Kristaps Porziņģis versus Ivica Zubac. Therefore, the Celtics will then rest Kristaps Porziņģis for the Lakers game and will ultimately run Al Horford versus the Lakers. We did not see this type of stagnant run in their last back-to-back versus the Magic and Hawks, where they both played versus the Orlando Magic and both sat out versus the Hawks, and that was a clear issue for the Celtics in their front court. They utilized Luke Kornet and Namish Queta, and even though Luke Kornet was a solid big, Queta had some issues in that game, trying to grab some rebounds, trying to stay defensively, that ultimately hindered this Celtics team in losing that lead and losing that game ultimately. So I do believe staggering these bigs is still the right idea, the right game plan, and specifically versus some LA teams that are still comparable and want some to give the best to this Boston Celtics team in one of their only matchups that they really get against the squad. I do expect them to come out with full blood, so I would like to see them stagger this lineup a little bit. With Holiday, I don't really know what to expect from him if he's going to play or not, but if he does not play, I don't see it being a big deal, and I do see him suit up versus the Lakers. But I want to know your thoughts as we get that in before the video. But let's dive in and let's talk about some Jayson Tatum, as this is what we all want to hear coming out of Jayson Tatum's mouth as he proclaimed on Jimmy Kimmel just yesterday or last night that him and the Celtics are going to be pushing for another championship. Courtesy of Ian Iangelo of Celtics blog, we see that Jayson Tatum was asked on Jimmy Kimmel if he would guarantee the Celtics repeating as champions, and he said, "I hope so," given a little bit of a pray looking up. And for JT, I'm hoping so too, my guy. I'm really hoping that he can bring this championship and Banner 19 back to Boston. We've seen the Celtics get into some questionable conversations over their last month of December, but they still are a top team in the NBA, still a top team in the Eastern Conference, that's for sure. And I do see these little bit of a rough patches and ruts hindering the team in some aspect, but not stalling the team till its full production. I truly do believe that this Boston Celtics team can still reach its peak at with this squad, with them continuing to grow. And I do believe them adding some of these pieces, going closer to the trade deadline, maybe making a move here around the edges could really bolster this squad. We've seen them lack some shooting on the wing. We've seen them lack some extra bench scoring, and I do believe that those two positions could be addressed to really help out this squad. But hearing Jayson Tatum basically say this, not backing down and really staying prepared for this Celtics team is what you want to hear. You want to hear your best player, your championship guy, really believe in this squad still, and that's what he's still doing. I have no feelings and no worries with this Celtics squad right now going into the playoffs. I know that they have some injuries, but I ultimately believe that if the Celtics are going to lose, it's not going to be due to the fact of anyone beating them. It's going to be them beating themselves. But let's dive into the last part here as I get your thoughts on that last piece, because this is also nice to hear, as we heard some quotes from Steve Kerr following the Olympics here with Jayson Tatum. And it's been a topic of discussion since last summer, but we're going to probably be talking about it for the last time here. Steve Kerr and Jayson Tatum handled this very professionally in yesterday's quote, as we see, courtesy of Legion Hoops, that Steve Kerr on the Jayson Tatum Olympic controversy said that they texted after the game in Boston a couple months ago, and they texted last night after the game where the Celtics beat the Warriors by 40. And he says, "I will tell you that Jayson was an absolute dream to coach. During all that stuff, that so controversy you might have noticed, there wasn't a single quote from Jayson Tatum. It was everybody else talking about it. Jayson is an amazing guy, an incredible player, and he couldn't have handled it any better when he was there." And that's some great things to hear from Steve Kerr. As me, notoriously, I was on this channel, bashing Steve Kerr for why he was benching Jayson Tatum, coming at his head, basically overreacting in some aspects, I will admit, looking back on it. But it is nice to hear, obviously, Jayson Tatum being able to handle this type of pressure and not really take it to heart. We all know that Jayson Tatum was affected by it because he came out on the season shooting lights out and really wanted to bolster his name into these conversations that he's welcomely deserving in. But it was nice to see that him and Steve Kerr still have this mutual relationship, and it was nice to see that Jayson Tatum vocally himself didn't come out and speak on anything like Steve Kerr said. That was the key thing for this Celtics team, keeping, obviously, those emotions intact and showing out not what they do vocally and by talking on podcasts and by talking like this, but doing what they do best, showing what they do on the court. And Jayson Tatum has done that this season for this Celtics team. Has shown some stretches throughout the year where he hasn't been the most consistent, but recently for this Celtics team has been that guy that can step up to win the game in the clutch, hitting some big time threes. Can be a fantastic rebounder when you have guys like Al Horford, like Kristaps Porziņģis out of this rotation, specifically in that Atlanta Hawks game where I notoriously thought he was just going to take the night off after an explosive Orlando Magic contest. It was just going to be the guy that sets up the offense and facilitates. And he did that early on in the game, but when the Celtics required him to step up and to be that guy when they needed him to score because they lacked that scoring input, he came through and he delivered, making sure that it was a known fact that he was in that building taking care and taking control of this team. That's what Jayson Tatum has been able to do with this Boston Celtics team ever since he's ingrained himself in Boston. And I can't believe the amount of people that will come on here and berate and belittle the guy who does everything for his city. But I want to know your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. So let me know what you guys ultimately think on everything Jayson Tatum, as he's really, really stepped up to deliver for the Celtics team ultimately as a MVP and has been that X factor truly for the Boston Celtics. Like I said, you guys have been absolutely fantastic. I hope to catch you guys in the stream today. If not, no worries, but I hope to catch as many of you guys there, as we'll be breaking down everything Boston Celtics, and it's just a place to interact with more Celtics fans. Without further ado, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, and go Boston Celtics. Peace out, everyone.